Hi everyone, welcome to another quick session. In this session, we will discuss systems development controls. System development controls are safeguards applied throughout the software development life cycle, which also calls SDLC, to maintain security, integrity, and reliability in application. So CISSP focus on development models, DevOps and DevSecOps, configuration management, and testing. So, if we talk about software development overview, that is planning, analysis, design, implementation, maintenance. This is the classical. This is the classic example of SDLC waterfall model, sequential and structured, used in environment where documentation and predictability matters. For example, government, aerospace. So, waterfall model is a structured model. So, you can go back to the previous cycle. So, you cannot switch from the last phase to the first phase. Here you need to be very structured, and this waterfall model is, as it is sequential and structured model, it is only used for those projects where we can predict end to end. For instance, construction uh, work, or planning a building, right? So where we have predictability. So here predictability matters. So when in CISSP exam, they talk about structured and sequential process. For software development, it is in fact um, a waterfall model. So there are different models, life cycle models. Uh, For instance, waterfall, as we discussed, rigid, sequential, each phase must finish before next begins, very important. Traditional enterprise systems, it is for traditional and enterprise system. Um, a spiral is iterative, risk driven, revisits phases with risk evaluation. High risk are it is for high risk or complex projects. V model V model emphasizes verification and validation at each step. Safety, critical, for example, medical services. Agile, uh, iterative, adaptive, frequent releases, and feedback loops. Web mobile applications. So agile is a very flexible, iterative model where you build something and then you go back and discuss with the customer. So, and based on their feedback, so you again make changes as per requirement. So, feedback loops. So, so you always try to iterate it. It's a very agile, very flexible. And nowadays in IT industry, this model is very often implemented or used. DevSecOps adds security automation to Agile and DevOps pipelines. So DevSecOps, so DevOps development operation. If we include Dev security ops model, then it adds security automation to Agile and DevOps. So third one is Gantt chart and PERT, paired. So Gantt chart is a visual project timeline, who does what and when. You can visualize it. So responsibilities, who does what and when, the timeline, the time frame. Paired program evaluation and review techniques analyzes task dependencies and identifies critical paths. So it evaluates the dependencies. If you do a task, then you analyze what could be the dependencies while performing this task, and you identify the critical paths. The longest chain of dependent tasks that determines project duration. So you see different critical paths, and which the longest chain of dependency, a dependent task, it determines the project duration. So, example, paired help managers see which delay will push back delivery. So it helps management team or managers a team to see which delay will push back delivery. So you can identify the constraints, right? So using this PERT, that will help you to understand the criticality and also the constraints. Another one, change and configuration management. Change the purpose, maintain integrity and version control of code and system configurations. For example, developer uses Git to track code versions. Change requests go through review and approval before merging. Uh, Configuration management is equal to control, versioning, change approval, and rollback. So, change management is a very essential part in the organization. So, when you perform a change in production environment, it could be a code, or it could be anything. If you, let's say, if you make any change in your network infrastructure, so you need to go through that change management control. So you need to prepare the plan, to prepare the run book, uh, how you will implement that change, the configuration, and if some, while implementing that configuration change code, if something goes wrong, what would be your validation plan, would be your, in worst case scenario, how you can roll it back. So change and configuration management is very important. Versioning, change request, approvals, so you need to get an approval from the uh, change management team. So in an organization, there is also board, change advisory board. So those, that particular department is responsible to take care of all the changes in the production environment. It's a very big topic, but here we need to focus on uh, change and configuration management and the purpose of it. So we do not want to go into detail, but for our understanding for the CISSP exam, I think this definition is sufficient. So next thing is DevOps and DevSec. DevOps integrates development plus operations, right, for faster continuous delivery. DevSecOps adds security automation into CI/CD pipeline. Automated builds that include static code, scans, SAST, and security testing before a deployment. DevSecOps shift left shift left includes security early in development lifecycle. Next one is application programming interface APIs. API allows app to talk each other but expand the attack surface. A REST API for banking app must protect data via authentication and rate limiting to prevent brute force or DDoS attack. So when you integrate your application to any other application, so they enable API. uh, they provide you API, application programming interface. So thus you could integrate your application, your web application to another web application using that API. And that is very, very critical thing because it could expand the attack surface, right? So we need to be very careful and we need to have proper, appropriate control in place to protect that communication, right? So protection is very important. So what could be the defense while implementing or integrating REST APIs? Authentication is very important. So you need to authenticate it. Rate limiting, right? So you need to have rate limiting. So rate limiting means that you cannot send thousands of requests at the same time. So there should be some constraint or rate limiting. Input validations. We have discussed this input validation multiple times. Input validations could be another defense. So API common target for attacks, always secure endpoints with token and validations. Next one is software testing. Software testing verifies that software works as intended and securely. Types of testing: unit testing checks small pieces of code. Integration testing checks module working together. Regression testing ensures update don't break existing feature. If you update something new, then you need to make sure that the new added configuration did not break any existing feature. So that is regression testing. Integration testing. So if you integrate two different module application, so we need to make sure they are working together. They are compatible. So they do not have any issue. Unit testing, check small pieces of code. So you test the code in chunks, right? So these are the testing types for the CISSP exam. So you may see questions about regression testing, integration testing, and unit testing. Integration testing is very much clear with the name, but unit testing, you need to understand what does it mean, and regression testing is also important. So acceptance testing confirms system meets business needs, right? And now the next is okay. So another, I think another important thing which I need to highlight in this security testing type, let me write it down: SAST and DOST. So we also need to understand the difference between SAST and DOST. DAST. So SAST is static application security testing. It analyzes source code. So you have direct um, access to the source code. And DAST, dynamic application security testing, analyzes running app. So you do not you test that code while running that application. So you analyze that running application. But SAST is you analyze the source code. Therefore, it calls static. Static application security uh, application security testing. Okay. And DAST is dynamic application security testing, only dynamic. So SAST, you analyze the source code of that particular application, and dynamic, you analyze it. You analyze running app, right? So that we need to understand. So you may see question regarding SAST and DAST. So you need to understand the difference between uh, these two testing types. So let me again revise it. Types of testing: Unit testing, check small pieces of code. Integration testing, check module working together. Regression testing ensures update don't break existing features. Acceptance testing, confirm system meet business needs. SAST, static application security testing analyzes source code. DAS, dynamic application security testing analyzes running application. So another term, fuzzing. So that is also very important to know. Fuzzing is input, sends random input to field. Uh, sorry, to find. Sorry, my mistake. Sends random input. Fuzzing, fuzzing sends random input to find to find crashes or vulnerabilities. So you send random inputs, right? Thus we could check whether application crashes or we might find vulnerabilities, right? So these multiple terms are very important terms for the CISSP exam. Therefore, I am emphasizing on these terms again and again. Next one is code repo. Code repo is centralized storage for source code, helps with collaboration and version control. Very prime example, GitHub repo with access controls, branch protection, and audit logs. So repo enforce uh, repository repo enforces integrity and traceability of code changes. Next one is service level agreement. It is contract between service provider and client, defining uptime. For example, 99.9% support response time, support response time, security responsibilities. For example, a cloud provider's SLA promises 99.99% uptime and encryption of stored data. So, what SLA is? It is a service level agreement between service provider and client. They promise uptime, right? SLA legally bind vendors to security and availability guarantees. Last one is third party software acquisition involves acquiring COTS, commercial off the shelf or open source components, risks, supply chain attacks, malicious code independencies, vulnerable open libraries, using an outdated open source library that includes a vulnerability in your app. So always assesses vendor risk and maintain software inventory for patch management. So now if we wrap this up, waterfall as we have discussed, it is very rigid and rigid model, structured, sequential, well documented, agile, flexible, frequent updates required DevSecOps for security. Configuration management maintains integrity of code versions, APIs, major attack surface, protect via auth and input validation, and SLAs ensure uptime and security. So I think that session is a bit longer session, but I try to cover all the important topic for the CISSP exam. I think um, if you watch this video, you would be able to understand all those topics, and they are software development control, system development controls, and hopefully this will also help you to answer a question in CISSP exam if you will see any question related to those topics. Thank you so much for watching this session. If you have any feedback or question, please share in the feedback section.